Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. This is a very special episode because it is another one in person in a studio here in New York City, and I am joined by three very special people. We've got Kevin Rose, Justin Mezzell. Did I get that right?
You got it really right.
Yeah, I thought I was going to screw
Maybe
it up.
better than I've ever said it.
Beautiful. And Ryan Carson.
Carson.
Ryan Carson.
Or Carson.
And I'm Carly Riley. No, we were joking earlier. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here, GM.
GM.
Just fresh off the plane for some of you, and Ryan, you took the train in.
The train. I'm the poor guy.
Yeah, just proximity close is really all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to start by just like orienting. Probably Kevin, we'll start with you. We're obviously going to talk about Moonbirds here. That's call it why we're here, but we're going to go a bunch of different places. So you have this, long history. You started a bunch of companies, sold a bunch of companies, done the venture thing, and then a year ago or so, you start Modern Finance,
Yes.
the podcast.
Right.
Do I have that right?
That's right.
Okay. What made you launch Modern Finance?
That's a good question. I just saw all the activity in DeFi and everything that was going on there, and quickly realized that some of the best kind of networking that I've ever done in my life has always been via podcast. It's a great excuse to have guests on the show, to meet people, to chat about what they're excited about. And then I'm also just like personally curious about everything going on Web3 wise. So I saw this movement that was happening and thought, okay, let's launch a show. And largely that at that time, it was like, how do I earn interest? Like, what are all these people aping into? Like, how do we avoid all the scams? What are these meme coins all about? Do they have lasting value? Like, and then at the same time, like shortly thereafter, 2 to 3 months later, NFTs just popped. And then I was like, okay, crap. Like, I had this plan. I was going to do this show. It was going to be all finance hacks, and all the fun stuff. And then I was like, crap, I love like NFTs too much. It's just there's too much about the artwork, and just there's so many pieces of this space that for me that immediately drew me in.
Yeah.
And I realized that NFTs were going to be so much more than just a simple JPEG, and that was really excited.
So did you see that coming? Like from how far away did you kind of see the NFT smart contract thing popping off? Because you're known for like seeing the future a little bit, I think.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough. I will say, it's right place, right time, and a little bit of luck, and all those things, and a little bit of seeing the future. It's like that mix, and sometimes you miss things completely. But I was lucky enough to have a buddy say, "You got to mint these things called CryptoPunks. Like they're going to be." And that
was that buddy Gary Vee?
That was not Gary Vee.
Oh.
No.
Did you tell Gary Vee?
I told Gary Vee to
Gary
buy his
Vee to
first
buy
punk
punks. Okay.
about a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And so. I minted them, and they were like $5 a piece. I got 10 of them, and I was like, okay, this is fun. And then I forgot about them. Honestly, I forgot about them for years.
Yeah.
And had to dig them out of a wallet and found them again, thankfully.
Oh my God.
And I didn't think I had them anymore. And it was hard because it was a long story. I was using an old wallet system that didn't support the new key phrase, so I couldn't restore it on a modern wallet. Did a lot of digging, found them. That was awesome. But, that's the first time I heard about this idea of storing that type of data on the blockchain. And then when I started to see, I think it was really when Art Blocks launched, where it was like, oh crap, this generative thing is really interesting. And that's when I went all in and said, okay, this is a movement that's starting to happen now. It's more than just some people speculating on things, or this isn't CryptoKitties all over again. Like, we're going much deeper. And it was clear that a lot of the tooling had been built up. A lot of the marketplaces were now online. That was a hard thing to do back in the day. It was like you were literally like on Reddits or trying to figure out ways to swap these things and sell them to people. And CryptoPunks was lucky, and they had their own little marketplace that they built. And so it was the right combination of maturity of the market, along with new artists that were crypto native artists that were only publishing stuff. Like, you can't go buy I guess you can actually buy printed X copies. He did do some prints way back in the day. But like, these are people that are just doing stuff, and producing content as NFTs.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're only going to get that way. And were you at True Ventures at the time? Where were you in your career when you launched Modern Finance?
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then, so walk me through now getting to Proof Collective and the decision to move from these just podcast content you're putting out to like a brand. What would you call Proof Collective at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was really the thinking there was let's take this big audience, because that podcast Proof quickly blew up because it was all things NFTs. NFTs were like really hitting this inflection point. Like there was a ton of capital pouring in, and we went from 5,000 listeners to 50 to 75 to 100, 150, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, there's 150,000
people.
people.
Podcast envy. Our podcast is doing well, but that's not that.
Well, I mean, it was again like it caught that movement, and I picked up a lot of subscribers when all the attention was on the NFT market, and there was like just us and a couple other shows that were out there.
Yeah, and you're Kevin Rose.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It does help to have previous podcast experience. So all those people that used to listen to me on Foundation or Dignation or all these other shows I used to do, I could roll those in. And then Tim Ferriss and I we still do the Random Show, which is like, once a quarter or more. And he has a massive audience. And I'm always talking about my shows on there. So like that type of stuff just like pumps it up. Got a lot of subs and then thought, well, there's a subset of these people that really want to go deep on NFTs. And it was clear to me that when anyone is armed with Photoshop and they can create an NFT, there's going to be just a flood of new NFTs hitting the market. And how do you make heads or tails of what's actually collectible, durable, and that will appreciate over time, right? And obviously in the world of PFPs, that's a whole nother thing where there's people that are rugging people on this. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, how can I bring a little bit of credibility to the space, help guide people in the right direction? And I need more eyeballs on this and I need help on this. And so when I joined Flamingo DAO, I was blown away because it was like these like 35 or so people that from the bottoms up come together to find the best NFT projects. And they have these weekly calls. They're just filled with alpha and deep dives because you have 35 people that are so obsessed with everything that then when that collective knowledge comes together, it produces amazing results and in getting rid of a lot of the garbage. And so I'm like, okay, well, how can we do that at a bigger scale? A lot of people can't afford to be in Flamingo, and they have a 99 member cap. And so the idea of a membership NFT made a lot of sense, and that's when we launched the collective.
Okay, I'm going to bring you two in just a second, but I want to follow up on that and ask, so was Flamingo, like where were you first? How were you individually combing through all of the space to decide what you were bringing to your listeners?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there was 2 or 3 people that jumped out as kind of thought leaders in the space that were tweeting a lot about really credible projects, at least I thought were credible projects, that kind of guided my eyes to different things. And I started learning about, Super Rare and the one-of-one artists to pay attention to, some of the generative stuff. And so I was talking to Snowfro a lot saying, hey, which artists are you really excited about of the ones that are dropping? And it's just little things like that. It's little nuggets of information. I remember when Snow said, oh, we've got this crazy artist, Tyler Hobbs, that's doing Fidenza next week. And like, you should check that out because it's really beautiful and take a look at some of the testnet stuff or whatever, and I went and looked at it and I was like, wow, this is the first drop I've seen that looks like art. Like this could be, this looks like art. It's generative. Like you could print this and someone might think it was painted. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
And so like, it was just those little like, okay, let's jump in here and go buy a few of these. And I never dreamed they would be this valuable. Like it was like, you're like, oh, maybe they'll like 3X or something, you didn't think it was going to go where it went.
Yeah.
But
I've joked frequently about how this space just like ruins all other kinds of investing for you, like 20% returns for like a hedge fund is like,
you're like,
ridiculous,
boring.
Whatever. And you're like,
Terrible.
20%, why am I locking my money up for 20%? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Please,
Maybe for a month, I can get that in a month. But
yeah, exactly. The year? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the origin story for Proof Collective. Okay, want to start bringing this alpha, can we use that word, to kind of a group of my early diehards? I don't know. I feel like I'm probably not characterizing this perfectly.
No, that's right. It's like the
fair.
people that were into the podcast that were going really deep, and Justin was a part of this all along because when I needed someone to design. I'm a horrible designer, and so I needed someone to help me with the branding on Modern Finance and on Proof. And so
Okay.
that's how we met.
So that was literally going to be my next question is now connect the dots for me, kind of y'all's perspective on how this happened. So Justin, starting with you, how did you get involved here?
I was coming home from a vacation with my kids. We were like on spring break, and I think I got a DM from Kevin Rose that was just like, hey, I like your work. Do you want to work on something? and is Kevin Rose.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, what are you working on? And so he's like, well, let's just hop on a call.
Like,
I
is
was
this, am I being
when?
scammed?
Yeah,
Like, have you been
I'm like
hacked?
checking, like
No, that sounds just
when? He's like, well, how about now?
Actually, I got 7 ETH out of him. I did scam him. Actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was good.
which honestly was a great lesson to learn. It was a great
Yeah,
lesson.
you gotta learn the hard way. Don't have to
Yeah,
do
he
that.
never gave it back, but at the
I
same
paid it
I feel
back
like
in
we're
design
working.
fees.
Yeah,
So you got it back.
We're
eventually.
working on it. And so yeah, when I kind of came on board, it was just kind of working on the podcast, and he had some ideas about some of the visuals. And at first, we were kind of like rotating on like these really 80s kind of synthwave, just kind of fun stuff. And then we kind of, talked about when Proof was launching, just sort of like, what does it look like to build a brand that like allows other people's artwork to really like, we're giving the platform to that. It's not all about Proof being this loud, big thing. And the other thing, go ahead.
Are you describing right now like the thumbnail for the podcast and the website? Or like those the two big design pieces, or is there
I mean, in terms of our brand at the time, yeah, it was very much like we have, kind of like a masthead or like a, a logo type identity, and then thinking about how does that play with some of the artwork we're doing. And obviously we're in an audio format,
right,
which I know and it's, describing these JPEGs is a little hard.
Yeah.
And so we knew that there were going to be brand extensions at some point outside of it, whether it was like pursuing more of an editorial route. Kevin had kind of like also at the same time started taking a lot of the guests that had been on the show and was kind of running this Discord of artists too. So it was really neat to see like, artists that like I've watched the space and just like, oh my God, these people are just talking every day, just talking about what's going on in their life. And sometimes they're sharing about their drops. And so that was one of the cool things too with Collective, I think that we had was like, there was already this amazing community of artists that existed. And now we're adding more people from the Collective to be able to, talk to them and ask questions and see when something is going to drop, and they're posting in there like, hey, I've got this kind of coming out. And so it was a really neat sort of blend with, Kevin's product thinking about seeing, okay, there's something going on here with sort of how people are looking at the NFTs and how Proof is growing, and then taking that and being like, we could grow community around this appreciation and around people that are excited about collecting. And yeah, and since then it's just kind of, it's done what it's did.
You've accepted the 7th loss and said, all right,
yeah,
making it back outside.
I don't bring it up anymore.
Yeah. What were you drawn to in Justin's work that made you be like, this is who I want?
I think I
Create
found
the
your
look for the
dribble
brand.
first, right?
I think that's what you referenced. Yeah,
I found his online work, and it was just beautiful illustrations, and just it's in Justin, it's hard to find. I've worked with a lot of designers, and oftentimes you can find people that are beautiful designers, but don't really think through the usability and the overarching brand and everything else that needs to be considered. And so even in our earliest conversations, it was all around, it wasn't just like, let me build you a website. It's like, okay, who's the audience in mind? Like how do we want to make sure that we're building towards that audience? I mean, just a deeper level of thinking that you typically find from great product people. And it was clearly he had that, and so I was like, "This could be awesome. We should work on this."
That's just running the gamut, though. It's like I like started off in editorial design, doing magazine design, and then it was, working at an agency doing branding design, and then from there I broke off and did illustration work and just worked for a bunch of companies, like contracting with them. So it was like I started off with like the PayPal illustration system, and then I went to Twitter, and then worked with Google, and so it was like. But as I was doing their illustration teams, I was like, how where are you guys using these things? And so I wanted to learn like, how is product being developed? How do you decide where illustrations go? And so then it was doing product work, and then it was after that running product kind of departments. And so I've just kind of gone all over design. And so what's been really fun about Proof and originally Modern Finance is like we get to start with kind of a brand or an identity, but it evolves into like all of these extensions through a ton of different mediums. And I mean, that's the way it feels today at Proof. It's like sometimes I'm working on, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit like Moonbirds, but sometimes I'm working on some of our brand stuff. Sometimes I'm working on some of the podcast stuff. And so it's like we have so many ways to visualize what it is we do. And sometimes we take a front seat, like it's all about Proof. Sometimes we're doing a back seat, and it's about the other artwork.
You can flex a lot of muscles given everything you guys have going on.
Rarible is the NFT platform that's leading the charge into the multi-chain universe ahead of us. Available on Flow, Tezos, Polygon, and of course Ethereum, Rarible is the perfect place for NFT newcomers, profile picture collectors, and experienced NFT traders. Rarible has a variety of NFT features that set it apart from other NFT marketplaces. They have a native messaging function allowing you to DM your friends or haggle with sellers. They also have a mobile app on iOS and Android with a built-in NFT portfolio portfolio tracker tool so you can easily check the value of your digital art portfolio. Rarible is built on the Rarible protocol, a multi-purpose, open source, and community-governed NFT protocol that helps build products and services across the NFT ecosystem, including white label marketplaces tailored to specific NFT communities. So go to Rarible.com and start discovering and trading NFTs, putting in floor bids to join PFP communities, and DM with some brand new internet friends. If you're starting on your NFT journey, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi and NFTs without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet so that you can connect to any Web3-enabled website. You can now trade tokens with any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across the DeFi exchange ecosystem, allowing you to select your best price while getting all of the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet, which I use while I'm out and about. And I use it to collect POAPs, NFTs, and use it for all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io, or load up your Ledger, Trezor, Keystone, or Lattice hardware wallets so that they too can get into Web3.
Ryan, your piece in this. Tell us. I know you and Kevin go like back.
Way back.
One of the fun things when I have guests on that I like and that I want to listen to, I get to go back into the archives and like listen to. So I listened to a conversation with the two of you from like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So tell us how you got involved here.
So I used to run a conference called Future Web Apps, and way back in 2006, we were doing an event in San Francisco, and Dig was big around that time, and it was like, well, clearly we need to get Kevin on stage. So we met for the first time on stage, right backstage, right before he was going on. And it was just kind of weird. It was like, we're the same age. We both studied computer science, like just like a ton of weird similarities, and we just kind of hit it off and became friends. And then he spoke, I think, like every Future Web Apps.
It was fun. The London one was great.
Just
He
so
threw the
much
best
fun.
conferences back in Web 2.
Well, I've learned that was Gary V's start was on
Yeah.
the
We had a blast.
stage in London. Wow, that's cool.
I'm just a big believer in human relationships, IRL. Like, there's just so much value in getting people together. So I was doing conferences, and Kevin and I became friends. And then at some point, it was like, well, if we really want to empower people, doing conferences isn't the best way to do it. We need to teach code online. Like, let's just teach people how to code online. And so we launched Treehouse, sold the events business, and then I was doing my earnout, and Kevin spoke for me in LA. I mean, no, it was Vegas. And I was like, hey, Kevin, check out this spreadsheet. And I was like, this Treehouse thing is really growing a lot. And he said, I want to invest in that. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Let me go read a book. So I literally read I think it was a book by Brad Feld.
Do you remember what it's called?
It's like his classic, how to not get like hurt by investors, like book. And so I thought about it, and after a while I was like, all right, let's do it. So Kevin was my first investor in Treehouse, and that was a decade ago. So we've just been friends forever. Both lived in Portland at some point, and then he kept pinging me about this podcast, because last year in 2021, I began to get sort of inbound acquisition offers on Treehouse, and it was like, okay, I think we're gonna sell. And he's like, you should listen to my podcast. I'm like, okay, fine, And I listened to the first episode of MoFi, which I think was DC Investor, or was he the first?
DC Investor was the first proof.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I first listened to all the MoFi episodes, and I love DeFi, so that was kind of fun, And I was like learning, okay, how does Ethereum work, and all these kind of things, and then Kevin sort of integrated the Proof podcast, and I was like, oh, NFTs, and I'll never forget. Like, I was driving, and I was listening to DC Investor talk about NFTs, and I had to pull the car over because I was like, oh my God.
Why did you have to pull the car over?
Well, like
I'm so excited. I might crash
Did
this
you like
vehicle.
throw up or something? Like, what happened?
I just can't control it.
it was like my brain, I couldn't focus on driving. It was like my brain was processing like, holy shit, like this is literally going to change the fabric of society.
That's amazing. I've never had to pull the car over.
So I was like, and then I just sat there and listened to it, and I was like, okay, you can burn NFTs, like you can it blew my mind. So I was like, holy shit, this is so interesting.
I remember you hit me up and you were like, you don't understand. And I'm like, no, I do. That's why I'm doing this. And you're like, no, it's just going to be. And I'm like, I get it, dude.
I'm doing the podcast.
He was going over the top, so excited.
I was like losing my mind. So, but was selling my company and was just very busy, doing all that. And so eventually, I'm listening to every single episode of Proof, and then Kevin had told me, he's like, so we're going to do a thing, and it's going to be a thing, and then it was announced, and so Treehouse was bought in December, and I had decided, it was actually in New York. I was having breakfast with my wife, and it was minting day, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get a Proof pass. Like, I was talking to my wife about it, because I thought it was gonna be 5 ETH. So I was like, that's a decent investment. You got to talk to your wife about that stuff, and she's like, we should do it. Like, I'm like, yeah, there's gonna be smart people like in this group, and I was gonna retire at that point, so I just thought it'd be fun to be in this group, and I just got sucked in. Like, the Proof Discord is just so fun.
I mean, for 50 ETH, the Proof Discord, I have like inappropriate jokes I want to make about what must be happening in the Proof Discord
it's a very
for
good thing.
50 ETH to be.
But early, you knew it was a good community.
Yeah.
So like, I got in there, I was just a Proof member. Like, I wasn't the COO.
Yeah.
I was just in there, like, learning how to use Discord.
It is a good question. Like, what's going on
What is
there for
happening
50
in the
ETH?
Proof Discord
Yeah.
for 50 ETH?
So, I mean, at some point, I was just reading Discord all day, and my wife was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I think I'm obsessed.
I think I'm down the rabbit hole.
And then I woke up one morning and I was like, honey, like, I think I want this to be my job. Like, what would you think if I went to Kevin and asked to work from him?
Well, I remember when you hit me up, and I was like, "You want to be a moderator?" I was like, "Dude, you're the CEO. You just sold the company. You're retired. You want to be a moderator now?"
I was like,
Is that what the ask was? Were you like, hey, can I be
No.
Okay.
No, but it was a little bit like you were like, "I love this Discord so much. I want to be involved." And I'm like, "What is he?"
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you wanna do?
He's like,
Yeah.
you're overqualified. Like, are you sure you want to run Discord? I was like, no. Like, I want to be your COO.
Yeah, I
And
want to
he's
run
like,
your company.
Oh. And then he's like, okay. And then you two obviously had a conversation. He's like, you got to talk to Justin. And then Justin and I hit it off like soul brothers. Just like,
So true.
we have all these hilarious. And then here we are.
And so at this point, is it the three of you full time?
Yeah, you got another one over there.
We got another one in the corner of this room. We're not going to say it though.
But we are.
It's the three of you.
Yeah.
You want to announce it?
I mean, we can. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to? So we've got Ryan, who's basically is joining us as our director of engineering. And
Second Ryan.
Yeah, the second
Ryan.
Yeah. And we worked together in the past at several things, and he actually helped out with our initial proof drop on the collective pass side, which people don't know. Just doing a little bit of contracting stuff in the background. And what's your Twitter? Is it Melting Ice? Yeah, it's at Melting Ice on Twitter. And so I've watched him scale things to like millions of users on the back end. And his engineering chops are just insane. And so I was like, okay, we're going big here, like in terms of what we're building, which is a combination of like decentralized and centralized applications. Like, we need a rock star in this position. So,
congratulations to all of you. It seems like a win. Do you want to come say hi to YouTube or something? I know podcasters won't be able to hear it, but say to Ryan,
Hello,
Melting Ice on
YouTube.
Twitter. That's awesome. This is the second episode I've had where somebody's made a big engineering announcement on this show.
Boom.
Doodles, Jordan Castro announced that. So we're becoming the place for this. I'm so glad this happened. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got I'd say 2 or 3 more hires we're about to make, and
Ideally 4 on my team.
Yeah, and it's definitely not lost on us that we're a bunch of white dudes at this point. So we've got some at least 2 other women, 1 person of color that we're interviewing. Like, we're going to get diversified really, really fast. Because we do not want to be a bunch of white dudes. So
Yeah.
just want to throw that out there for people watching the video.
See the video, seeing another white
It is
guy
not
pop in.
lost on us at all.
Yep.
Well, and I know it's something you've talked about with Moonbirds, which we should get to because I have some other bigger picture questions I want to ask, and I'm cognizant of time here. So I know you've talked about you have like a panel of folks who have been helping advise on Moonbirds where diversity has been super important and has been super helpful. I don't know if you want to say anything on that, or I'll just start diving in, making questions about Moonbirds.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to. That's the easy one to answer. We didn't want to create like, we didn't want this to be something where it's just like we have a website and it's like, look at our diverse panel of advisors, and we're just kind of like doing that for a show.
Right.
And so one of the cool things that we did is said, okay, we just need help with attributes, because like we want attributes, meaning like how do they appear, how do they look, like what speaks to you as a collector. And so we wanted to get a bunch of different voices to the table and see what came out of that. And so that means a bunch of people of color, a bunch of women, like people that we just want to all have involved, and essentially said, hey, listen, give us 15 minutes of your time. It doesn't have to be a big ask. We're not asking you to design anything, but just tell us what you would like to see done. and they provide back some fantastic attributes that made it into the collection. So we've got some great stuff coming that actually, it's so cool. It made the collection better. It really, truly made the collection better. Because like there was stuff we would have never thought about as just like a couple white guys iterating on this stuff, you know? And we've got some really fun things that we have yet to reveal yet, but it'll come out at Mint Day. So.
And it felt important because it's, you know, I mean, a PFP is still a PFP, I'm sure, to a lot of people, but in the Web3 space, like it is becoming a part of identity.
Yep.
And, you know, people are building brands around it and they're being recognized by their PFP. And so I think like, as maybe low table stakes as it might seem, it's also really important and it can be a real powerful piece. And so we thought, you know, it must be really difficult to see the same collections rehashing the same traits, the same ideas, and every time a new collection comes out to say like, I don't see myself there, I don't see myself here. And so when it came to Moonbirds, it was really important to try to think about that through the lens of like, how can we make sure somebody who hasn't seen themselves somewhere else says, finally, like this feels like something or an individual that I'm proud to represent as my identity.
So in case anybody who's listening has missed this, I'll give the context, which is why this is so important, what you all are saying. This is the first PFP, and I don't know, I guess only PFP drop, I don't know, you all tell me, that is coming out of the PROOF Collective. You started with these membership passes, and you've been on Twitter Spaces talking about this and on podcasts, so I don't want to rehash things that can be found in a couple of other places. But you know, the PROOF membership pass, not a good PFP. Beautiful art, not a good PFP. Right. And so this was your way to sort of foray into that, let this be something that folks can use to socially signal, to say they're a part of this group. And that's what's landed us here.
Right, but it extends further than, so we only have 2,000 members, or 1,000 members as PROOF Collective holders. And the number one thing people ping me about is, love the idea, I'm priced out now because it's too expensive. And so how can we provide a lot of the benefits and do slightly different benefits that are a utility PFP and to a wider audience that is less expensive? And so for us, this is the way to take kind of our chops in community building and then also tying in real world unlocks into the actual PFP. Like one of the things that we love to do is figure out like PFPs, they're awesome, and Justin's done great work in terms of there being like these great little thing that you said is your Twitter avatar, but we think they could be much deeper than that. Like they can go much further than that in terms of the utility that they actually unlock for that person, that holder. And so that is what gets us really excited as product builders, is how can we build around that to make this have a lot more depth than just another drop. Like just another PFP isn't that, there's been so many. It's like, why just do just another one? It's going to be completely different. We can give you some examples of stuff.
Well, I would love that. I know I heard you mention somewhere like a mobile app that, you know, can easily make this an access pass to IRL events. It seems like there's a lot of blending of IRL and Metaverse, and we'll talk about that. But if any of you want to chime in on what that might look like.
I think we have an amazing community, number one in collective. Now it's going to expand to, you know, an extra 8,000 people. And all of a sudden we have this amazing group of holders that we can just reward and reward and reward with interesting things, right? And so we've got this idea of nesting.
Yeah, this is cool.
Right? And there's just so many permutations of fun, value, that we can drop into our amazing holders and reward them for being a part of the community. And, you know, we have a long time to do that. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, I think so what nesting does, to give people the quick little TLDR, is that you essentially take your bird and you kind of lock it up. So it's a way that we've figured out on the smart contract side to make it so it can't be sold. And then you start to accumulate time that your bird has been nested. It's almost like staking, kind of, you know. And then you get a total amount of time and cumulative time on that particular bird. And what this allows you to do is now you can divide up rewards based on loyalty. So the same way that everyone does loyalty programs, like the airlines do it like this, right? Your platinum status or whatever it may be. And the credit cards do it like this. Everybody does it like this. Crypto doesn't do it like this, which is very confusing. Everyone gets the same thing. Like if you held a Bored Ape since day one, and you bought one the day before they did the ApeCoin launch, you got the same amount of coins. It made no sense to me.
Presumably they do that to encourage secondary activity because they get royalties off that.
Yeah, but I don't care about that. That's like, for us, we'd rather like, I don't know, this needs to be more fun than that. And it's like, for us, that allows us to take the capital that we were going to invest back into the community. So if you have, 10,000 members that are all on equal footing and you have a budget of $100,000, Like now you only have like a few dollars to spend on each individual user. Like they get a pen and a cap in the mail, and like that's it, right? But if you break it into segments of loyalty, now you can take larger pools of capital and provide really interesting benefits and perks for those people.
Right. Well, no one is building real communities. Like we don't want 10,000 people on secondary flipping Moonbirds constantly. Like we actually want to build a community of people that stay. I mean, we're not optimizing for secondary sales. I think that's part of the problem with PFPs. Like we're optimizing to create a real community. Like it's our dream that everybody would hold their Moonbird forever.
It is stunning this hasn't been done before, given all of the talk around community and how every project claims that's what they're about.
Build a real one.
Right.
Well, we were referencing this earlier. What must be happening in the PROOF Collective Discord for the valuations, or for the 50 ETH sales? Maybe give a little insight into that, but also what are going to be the different access points? What's the difference between a PROOF Collective card and a Moonbird?
Yeah, it's a great question. So PROOF Collective has always been about the most hardcore NFT collectors. It's 1,000 members in total. They get the research reports, the almost like Forrester level, like if you're familiar with the old stock market world, like the really deep PDFs explaining to you like, why you should care about a project. So it's our curation with a point of view. So it's podcast release early before anybody else. It is that private Discord of only 1,000 members, so the Moonbird holders are not allowed into that Discord. It's for the hardcore collectors, and that will always remain to be that separate entity. The Moonbirds are more about in real life having fun, unlocking physical and digital things as well. And some of that will spill over. Some of the benefits that we offer to the PROOF Collective will spill over into the actual Moonbirds, but there'll be other unique things that we do for that community that are just different. Like I'll give you an example, and this isn't one that we have to offer, but it's an example of how we're thinking. Like we have a little Moonbird that has a little space helmet on it, right? There's probably going to be 100, 150 of those. There's a world where we take an attribute combined with the nesting time and we tie it to something that you can do. So in this example, like we know people that work at SpaceX. So we do a SpaceX tour every year for the people that have that particular attribute. So you can think about attributes actually being used in the reward system as well. So we have a Moonbird that's going to have a little grail on top of its head. So we have all kinds of things like that. We have one that's glitch that looks like a little glitch type thing, and you can imagine we have certain glitch artists that we know that would play into some of that type of airdrop type mechanics. So it's really having fun. Moonbirds is all about having fun, and then it all ties back to Proof of Conference, which is our big yearly conference that's launching next year. That's going to be a multi-thousand person event, and we'll have all the Moonbird holders and PROOF Collective all come together for that. Great speakers, and then of course we got the best person in the world to throw those events right here.
It's going to be fun. It'll be the best NFT conference in the world. I mean, it's going to be a blast. I do want to point out though, Moonbird holders will be able to access the Proof Discord, but in a token gated channel. So part of what we're trying to do is encourage people to rub shoulders. Yeah. Moonbird holders want to rub shoulders with Proof holders. And
we want the alpha.
Well, yeah, I think we want them to be able to experience that and get to know each other and start to see like what are Proof holders like and what's going on in there. But we have to protect, Proof Collectives, all the benefits we offer them. So,
which will be just for the Proof Collective members, like their access to a lot of our original collections that we put out, like Grails, that will still remain with the Proof Collective. So there's going to be a lot of those kind of exclusive things that will stay within Proof Collective. But, we think about Moonbirds on that fun side as sort of like it's a playground for us. It's a product playground to take mechanics that sound intriguing to us that we kind of think up and really kind of put it to use. Because, there were times where we were ideating on even the Proof Collective Pass. What do we want to do with it? What kind of mechanics do we want to introduce? And, we've put a lot of rigor into trying to determine, though, like that doesn't feel like Proof's brand, though, like the collective brand. That's not where we want to go with this particular thing. But it's a great utility. And it's a great idea. Moonbirds for us has been amazing because we haven't even talked about all of the things that we've kicked around and theoretically whiteboard. Oh, what if you did this? Or like what if we could try out these things? And that is going to be the platform.
You should mention High Rise because that's a big piece of this.
Good point.
We have something called Project High Rise, which is our take on the metaverse, and that's a very loaded term, metaverse, and there's a lot of crap out there that's called metaverse. we don't want to create this endless, expansive 3D world where you have to find your mouse cursor by hitting escape and all this weird stuff. Like ours is going to be different, and Moonbirds holders will have a front row seat to that. So they will have access to all that stuff. So there will be bigger, broader projects that Moonbirds people get to participate in. So it's not just about the Proof Collective getting everything.
Can you say more about what High-Rise and your metaverse will be, since we have a sense of what it won't be?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're trying to figure out how much to share on this front, because we are in the ideation kind of stage of it, and we want to kick off at least enough development work to where we can get a V1 out there very soon. I can tell you that when we do launch it, it'll be very much in the public, in kind of alpha and beta. So you'll see iteration and launches. It won't be one of the problems I have with the metaverse and a lot of these projects is that there is a shit ton of capital. They have no clue how to do software development. They've never done or built products before. And then you see our metaverse is coming in 3 years.
Right.
And you're like, is that going to really happen or not?
Yeah,
you know, it's like, so we're going to get something out this year and iterate on it. You'll see new pushes going live every couple of weeks. And our thinking is like, let's make this about a way to come together, have conversation around NFTs and collections. So it's like if the old school Sims met Discord meets like something else and has like GeoCities and like has a baby or something. So it's like,
all right, I'm in. I'll come.
So there
I'm
you go.
intrigued.
It's gonna be fun. It'll be less complex than all the other metaverses out there, but by design, so that it just like you come in
Like,
and
let's
you
get an MVP out, see what's working, see what people like, iterate. And I think this team has the credibility that you guys can do that because you have a public enough platform to signal that that's what you're doing.
Right.
So like, hey, don't take this as like the final version of what all this will be. You know, you can signal that properly, and then so I think that makes sense.
I think what people need to understand is that we're very serious about community. So we're building everything on this foundation of real relationships that have real value. And I'm just going to read one of the posts in our Discord from Justin Versano, who's one of the world's most famous NFT photographers. And he said, grateful to be a part of one of the most innovative and tightly knit Discord ever made, Proof for Life. And that feeling and that foundation is what we're going to roll out to the Moonbirds Discord. That's what we're going to roll out to High-Rise, like real value, real curation. And so we don't see High-Rise as being this expansive, massive place. We actually want curation and care and quality.
Yeah. It's when you go into some of these metaverses, I'm sure you've done this too. It's like you look around and you're like, what is anything happening here? They're like these empty things.
You
And
can literally run in the woods in like Decentraland for like a while.
yeah, you can get lost. Yeah. And there's no purpose outside of like an NFT gallery show or something, which makes sense. So like everything that we do is going to have a actual real purpose on why it should exist, and not just because like I feel like Second Life and all these things of the 3D worlds have been built before. When Zuckerberg went on stage and showed people in VR playing virtual chess, I was like, okay, they don't get it. like nobody needs to sit in VR doing that was in his last pitch. Literally 2 people were sitting across from each other playing chess. And I'm like, I was doing that in AOL in like 97. Like, we don't need to reinvent that again. Like, we can do better. So that's our hope.
It's increasingly obvious that everything will become tokenized, and NFT marketplaces needs robust financial reporting, performance analysis, and the peace of mind that they are compliance ready. Guilded's NFT Ops is a one-stop financial reporting solution for growing NFT platforms. Guilded has developed marketplace-specific modules to track the financial performance of NFT creators, including revenue tracking, collection metrics, royalty payments, and revenue share. Customers of NFT Ops gain full access to accounting tools and powerful APIs for custom integrations that simplify operations, streamline reporting, and produce tax-ready data. So no wonder why so many top brands like CoinMarketCap, Gitcoin, Nifty's, and POAP trust Guilded to automate complex reporting workflows. Visit gilded.finance/bankless to learn more. Living a bankless life requires taking control over your own private keys. And that's why so many in the Bankless Nation already have their Ledger hardware wallet. And brand new to the Ledger lineup of hardware wallets is the Ledger Nano S Plus, a huge upgrade to the world's most popular hardware wallet. With more memory and a larger screen, the Nano S Plus makes it easy to navigate and verify your transactions. And the paired Ledger Live desktop app gives you increased transparency as to what is about to happen with your NFT. What you see is what you sign. The Nano S Plus gives you the smoothest possible user experience while you're doing all of your crypto things. So go to the Ledger website to check out the features of the new Ledger Nano S Plus and join the waitlist to get yours. And don't forget about the Crypto Life card, also powered by Ledger. The CL card is a crypto debit card that hooks right into the Ledger Live app, right next to all the DeFi apps and services that you're already used to doing, like swapping tokens and staking. So if you don't have a Ledger hardware wallet, go to ledger.com, grab a Ledger, and take control over your crypto.
Do you all really not think this is going to sell out at 2.5 ETH? And I'll give a little context before you guys answer that. So the mechanism here, it's a Dutch auction. That's how you did Proof Collective. Ryan, you made reference earlier to the fact that you thought it was going to sell out at 5 ETH. I think it ended up selling out Proof Collective via Dutch auction at 1 ETH.
Yep.
This Dutch auction will be starting at 2.5 ETH. You've said on a couple Twitter spaces you don't expect it to sell out there.
Momentum
Question
has,
is really?
no, like real talk, like a lot of momentum has gained since then.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I will see. I will say one thing, no matter what it sells out at, people should know that 100% of this capital is going back into building. It goes back into the company, not into our pockets.
None of us walk away with anything from the bag and like go do something with it. Like it's all going right back into how we're building and how we're structuring. And I think that is a key difference, is like we're not building just a project to collect money and then figure out what to do with it. Like we want to build a lasting company that stays around and continues to make incredible products across Web3.
Yeah, if we don't make the top 5 PFPs, like I think we have a shot at the top 5 in terms of, because ours is just so uniquely different, and I know what our roadmap looks like, and it's like we're going after the bigs in this space. Like we're not just doing it just to do another little tiny thing on the side and then cash out. That's not. There's no interest in that. Like
We're all in.
Yeah, we've all built big-ish companies, had great exits, and like we don't need another little single. Like we want to swing for the fences here and do something massive. So,
how does building a company in the Web3 space feel different from building it in the Web2 space? And I have even more specific questions on that, but let's start broad and see where you guys go.
It's so much more fun. I mean, oh my God, to have like like a community that just loves your product and is your biggest fans and is involved in the success of it. I mean, it's just,
well, let me
so
ask
much
you
fun.
about the flip side of that, which is, I think about what you guys are doing. You have a little bit of venture money, I know, and then you have, you're putting all the money that's coming from the community back in. Where my head goes is like, oh my God, all the stakeholders. Like it feels like it's scarier because you have the Proof Collective community now. You're gonna have the Moonbirds community. You have your venture community. Like, does that scare y'all at all?
In what way? Like, give me an
there's
example.
just so many people that now expect something from you and
a
want
lot
you to
of
drive
voices.
value up.
Yeah.
And like the
I think it's fun.
The venture company wants to continue to mark it up in their books, and the community wants the value. And I guess these all work in alignment. But
well, the good news is I'm a partner at the venture company that we raised the money from.
You are in a unique position.
So we're okay there.
Yeah.
I will say that the thing, you're right, there is a lot of expectation, a lot of it. The reason why everyone that you've met so far on the team, the small team that we have, we're all kind of seasoned vets in product builders and entrepreneurs and CEOs, and like we've done this before. So we're careful not to bite off too much. We know kind of where our limits are, and we also know that hiring rock stars are the way to build and scale this thing. Like we need the absolute best talent. So we're being very selective at who we hire and who we bring on. And like, we've run big organizations. I had 500 people that were, when I was at Google Plus, I hate to even say Google Plus. I was only there for a couple months, but like I've worked in very large organizations and seen from the inside of Google when I was there for 3 years, how to run and scale those large engineering organizations. And like we've all kind of had our tours of duty in very similar type environments, and we're bringing that experience to go and roll this out. So you're right in that we want to make sure to not overpromise. So we've been kind of like talking broadly about the things that we want to do, but we'd rather like underpromise and overdeliver. And that first and foremost starts with high quality people that are working on the team. So that's our main focus over the next few months, is how can we hire the absolute best folks.
And there's the community side where, you've talked, it's all about community. And I think we've tried to be really communicative with particularly right now, it's the Proof Collective community, sharing our intentions, where we're going, projecting roadmaps, if there's any changes, just trying to be transparent. And I think what I've seen, to the credit of the community, is when somebody has questions and they voice that in the Discord, it's never met with just throwing anybody down, calling it FUD or anything. It's literally like, cool, here's some great perspectives. Here's somebody sharing their perspective on it. I think this is the intention of why we would go here. This is what I think. And like, we've tried to be open and remain, and read what's going on, interject at times, but also just listen to other people that are in the Discord.
I've got a great example of that'll take 2 seconds. There was somebody who was like, this is when we're getting ready to launch Moonbirds, like maybe like 3 weeks ago. They're like, you don't have a marketing plan for this. How are you guys going to do this? Like, blah, blah, blah. This is happening in the Discord. And it was a fair question. They were just like, I don't know, like, are you really going to like make this thing a big reality?
They're like, nobody knows about Proof. Like, it's an echo chamber in here.
Ryan took a screenshot of our Notion document that showed our marketing plans, which is line by line, which podcasts we're appearing on, which different influencers that we're using, all like everything, and dropped it. And everyone's like, oh shit. and then they go, stop marketing, stop marketing.
This is something I was going to ask about, because you know, Proof Collective was very stealth. It felt like, I was vaguely aware of it, but like, I can't believe I wasn't more aware of it given I listened to your show, whatever, right? And so, how has it changed this time around, and now it feels like it's overkill?
It's hilarious. I mean, people said nobody knows about Moonbirds. Like, I'm in all these Discords, and literally nobody knows. Like, people don't even know what Proof is. And then we said, okay, well, wait, just wait. Yeah. And we did one Twitter space. And Kevin has 1.6 million followers, right? So I was like, Kevin, we gotta spin it up from your account. Let's go, and let's just talk about the project. And like, during the Twitter space, we started to see Proof passes fly. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And we don't talk about floor. We talk about quality, but that was fun. And then all of a sudden, everyone came back and said, oh my God, everyone's talking about Moonbirds. And I was like, cool. Well, we're going to continue the plan. I've got us booked in these shows. Let's go.
We got accused today of buying bots for our Moonbirds account.
There was like somebody who was like, I don't know, this looks really fishy. It was like 1,500, not like 2 Mondays or something like that. And then now
50.
No, we broke 60K.
Holy shit.
Just today we were talking.
I mean, and people are now scared that, it's going to be a massive gas war at 2.5.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And it probably will be. And it's like, well, okay.
Well, I had loved that you guys made the decision. You made a decision not to do an allow list, which I thought was really smart, because I feel like the initial conception of allow list was around to avoid gas wars, but then in theory the Dutch auction is supposed to avoid the gas war.
Right.
So it's like, okay, cool, they're doing the Dutch auction, that avoids the gas war. Not doing an allow list, because if you're doing an allow list for any reason other than the gas war reason, it really does just become like an insiders club, and I think not doing it is super smart. But now I'm like, well, now I feel like we're back to the gas war.
Right,
problem.
exactly. And then we can't raise the price, because that's just like, people will be pissed, and that's fair. That I would be pissed too if I'm sitting there thinking I'm gonna. So it's really tough.
But pricing has been difficult, because it's like, okay, well, if we undercut pricing and go for the low end, then chances are we're going to get other behaviors that's not necessarily what we're looking for. Whether it's a bunch of people getting it and they're like, this is a hotly contested project. Like, I know I'm just going to go and just get as many as I can and flip them. And so it's like, no matter what the decision is, you're either going to price people out, or you're going to opportune people out where it's just they can't get in like a certain amount of time. And so all of these decisions, like, we're trying to weigh all of the competing ideas and principles that we have, and trying to figure out what's a way that makes sense, at least the best shot to get either a diverse group, or thinking about equitable opportunity for the people to jump in. Because I mean, and we've shared this with the Proof Collective, our intention for this project is absolutely to expand the community, to bring new voices in, more people that can meet one another, can either build their knowledge base, or just build a brand around being in the Web3 space, or just be more known. And the idea is not that everybody in the Proof Collective Discord just everybody grabs 10 of them and like that's it, they're all gone.
We purposely, there's a couple things we've done. We put a limit of 2 max per wallet. And obviously people can find their way around that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we did is we have a bunch of like anti-bot technology that Divergence is building. So they're our smart contract partners on this. They've been fantastic. They've done all the drops that we've done so far. And so they are going to go, and they just spun up a bunch of stuff on the Google Cloud that they're using for anti-botting that we can't talk about today, because obviously they'll just find their way around it, but they're pretty confident they're going to stop some of the bigger bots from coming in and doing mass mints with some of this stuff. So we're trying to slow things down a bit.
Okay, a couple bigger picture questions. I want to have you back all on individually at some point, so I can really dive deep with you guys, because there's so much I think you can bring in terms of wisdom in general. You've been talking about community, Ryan, and one thing I thought was fascinating in an interview I heard you do actually with Kevin many years ago was at Treehouse, you experimented with like a no hierarchy thing. And it sounded essentially like a DAO. I mean, to the point there you had software, like you had built products or had, whatever you had done to try and make this work. I want you to talk about your experience with that, because I think it's very interesting.
So the thought was, well, why do you need managers? People are smart. People work hard. So let's remove all the managers. So we did that.
If you hire good people, they'll be motivated.
Yeah, I mean,
You were following a book though, right? Wasn't there a book that was written on this?
So I think Tony Hsieh
Yeah, Tony.
was doing it first.
Zappos.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I got the idea from him.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, I inherently believe people are good. So I'm like, okay. So we announced it to the company and said, okay, we're going to remove all the managers. Don't worry, you managers are going to stay. You can just go back to being ICs. And we were probably like 100 people at this point. And we built a piece of software. It was called Convoy, which was basically Reddit. And the idea was you'd make a proposal and you'd talk about the resources you need and people would vote. And like what got voted got done. And it was a disaster. I mean, it was fun for like a month. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't control the company. Like, we can't do anything. We can't get anything done. It turns out like the popular, forceful people control things anyway because they influence everybody. So we unwound it.
So how does that influence your feeling or opinions on DAOs?
Well, I think we all believe in like strong, opinionated leadership. Like, I think I'm not super bullish on DAOs, like running things quickly, but you're in Flamingo, so.
Yeah, I'm in a handful of them, and I would say that when it comes to having really very smart, motivated, financially committed people to these investment DAOs, they tend to bring like their A game when they come and bring ideas to the table. And I think DAOs have to be very careful about kind of who they vote into that community or who they allow into that community, because it's almost like you're only as good as your weakest, loudest link. And in Flamingo's case, it is the most hardcore kind of like investor, in it, like NFT collectors that I've seen in terms of a financial DAO that's been put together. I mean, there's over $1 billion of NFTs under management at Flamingo, and they've run a very tight ship. But there's two people at the top there, Aaron and Pri, that kind of orchestrate everything. So still, it's not, there's voting on should we buy this NFT or not, or a collection of this NFT, or the allocation of these NFTs. But, there's still someone kind of like making sure, the way I like to think of it is it's almost like the kids' bowling alley when like they flip up the paddles on the side. Like the ball makes it all the way through the end. It's going to bounce around a lot as it's going down the alleyway, but like it always makes it through to the right spot. And like that's kind of what you have going on. And so, there's examples of centralized leadership. Like the iPhone would have never been the iPhone had it not gone through a very tight group of people that had a very specific opinion on how something should be built. I mean, we saw what all these devices looked like prior to that. They were just a hodgepodge of like crap that were out there, So in terms of what we like to do and what we've done so far is that we kind of set the agenda for what we want to go out and build, and we want to surprise people with some things. I think so far with like Grails and other projects that we've homegrown, people have liked that surprise of like, oh, this is new and unique. But in terms of shaping the community and who we are from that standpoint, like we're all ears to like bottoms up and help mold that community. And then for individual little things, I love taking input and then bringing that back to the team that is making the decision. So when you go out for attributes that you want included into something, or pieces of functionality, like the way that I found we used to do this at Dig that worked quite well back in the day, is that we would have 5 things that we were working on at any given time. And then 2 of those 5 were community suggested. And then we would stack rank all the community ones and we would slot those in. So we still got to do what we wanted to do, and we still listened to the community and built what they wanted as well. And they were like another seat at the table. Yeah. So you don't treat them as someone that has complete control over everything, but you definitely give them a collective seat at the table to help shape what you're doing. And that so far has been amazing, and I think that will work well for us.
Okay, we are essentially at time. One thing I will have you back on because there's something that really stuck out to me. I was saying this before we kicked off here, Kevin. You were Tim Ferriss's first guest on the Tim Ferriss Show, which is a very fun fact, I think. And y'all were talking about Twitter at the time, and you were saying that one of the things that made you invest in Twitter was part of its moat was that the followers weren't portable, right? And that you couldn't take them anywhere, which is so fascinating now, given being in Web3, decentralization. take your followers anywhere, and in general, business models that are trying to be disrupted with decentralization. And how does that change like the investing calculus as a VC? Is anything? Can you exit a company like that? Like, there's a lot of philosophical questions I have that really don't have time to get into. I don't know if you have like a quick reaction to that, but that'll be the teaser for when I somehow convince y'all to come back on.
No, we should do a deep dive on that. There's a lot to chat about there. I mean, I think well, two things come to mind, and then you can tell me if there's something else you want me to tack on top of this. But one is that I do this idea of providing some type of liquidity mechanism for, especially in the DeFi space, for a lot of these projects. So a lot of them, that's happening via token and governance tokens and things of that nature. So that's interesting. That allows investors, typically investors will have like token rights as part of their investment.
It's like Andreessen Horowitz Uniswap or
exactly.
whatever.
They'll come in, they'll have some token rights. That's one piece of it. The other thing, what were you talking about before that? The Twitter thing?
Portability, decentralization, Web3.
Yeah, so what we're building, so I think made the best product win at the end of the day. And so when we build metaverse stuff, like when we're talking about the stuff that we're building, it's going to be 100% portable into any other metaverse that supports it. So, we're not about blocking access. And I think at the end, you just have to build a fantastic experience that delights your customers, which are your users. And if they stick around, that's great. If they want to take their assets somewhere else and use them elsewhere, then that's fine too.
It's such an interesting evolution in business thought, though, right? That it was, we have to be so closed, we have to be protected, that's our moat.
Right. Well, it's community ownership. It's community ownership. And you're finally saying you're part of this. The next Disney will not be top down, we're making Toy Story 7. It's going to be about some type of PFP coming in and developing IP that is community owned, and then it'll be bottoms up built, which is fascinating as a media company.
Well, and this actually happened in Proof. So we had a group of Proof members that were bullish on Proof, and they actually created a DAO to raise money to buy more Proof members. And the truth is, we couldn't stop it. Like, we didn't want to stop it, but that's the beauty of actual ownership. The community owns their passes. We can't control them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually kind of a neat example of these are actually owned by our members.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even get into rights. I'm really fascinated by how IP rights will play out in this space over time, and what Hello Sunshine is doing, partnering with World of Women that are owned by these individuals. I think all that's going to be fascinating. I know you guys have said on a Twitter space, Moonbirds, the individual Moonbird, you will own it. You will own the IP rights. I think more will be revealed on that front.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Okay, actual last question. How did you get to the term Moonbirds? I've heard you, Justin, talk about the art. I think people should go listen to Twitter Space and hear about that. But how did the name come to be?
We had a long Notion doc full of a bunch of different names, and we just I remember we were up at night texting. I was sitting on the couch with wine, and it was just and then Ira was just like, Moonbirds. Sounds kind of cool.
That was your idea, though, right?
Yeah. It came from me, but it was just this long list of a bunch of them. So yeah,
And we all loved it.
yeah, and then it just kind of stuck.
Love it. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you hopping on and your busy media schedule. I know you run a tight ship here. So
Well, thank you for having us. It's
course.
awesome.
Really appreciate it.
And we'd all love to come back on at some point.
I
and
would
go
love, again,
deeper.
there's a lot of just big picture questions that I would love to pick all your brains on. So we will make it happen.
Thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.